I thought he was just being polite, until his hands told me otherwise. Today I have a story that started off so ordinary, I almost missed the warning signs. He was kind, respectful, even a little shy. At first I thought he was just being polite, someone trying to offer comfort or help in a difficult moment, but then something shifted. It wasn't in his words, it was in the way his hands lingered just a second too long, the way his touch carried a message his mouth never said. That's when I knew this wasn't just kindness. This was something else. What happened next forced me to question everything I thought I understood about boundaries, trust, and myself. Stay with me because this is a story you'll feel long after it ends. I always believed I was good at reading people. A kind smile, a polite offer to help. It was easy to chalk it all up to simple manners. That evening, as I struggled with bags in the hallway, he appeared all charm and soft-spoken words. I thanked him, thinking nothing of it. But when his hands brushed against mine, lingering, deliberate, something shifted in the air, a hidden current, a silent confession through a single touch. Suddenly, it was not about manners anymore. It was about something neither of us dared to say out loud, until now I stepped back, clutching the bags closer to my chest, my heartbeat hammering against the plastic handles. His fingers had barely grazed mine, yet it felt like a spark had jumped straight to my core. I tried to shake it off, telling myself I had imagined it, that it was just an accidental touch. But when I looked up, his eyes held mine a second too long, carrying a weight, a question that left my breath caught somewhere between my chest and throat. We had seen each other around, exchanging neighborly smiles and brief conversations. He was younger than me, maybe by a decade or so, and I had always filed him away in my mind under polite and harmless. Now I was not so sure. There was something raw and unspoken in the way he watched me, something that hinted at emotions far more complicated than casual kindness. I fumbled for my keys, needing to break the moment before it swallowed me whole. He reached out again, steadying one of the grocery bags that threatened to slip from my arms. His touch was firmer, this time intentional. I looked at him quickly, searching his face for a sign that I was misreading everything. A laugh, a shake of his head, anything that would let me retreat into the safety of denial, but no such sign came, only silence thick and humming between us. "Let me help you," he said, voice low and even. But there was an edge to it, a softness stretched thin over something much deeper. I nodded, grateful for a reason to move, and led him inside. My hands were trembling slightly as I dropped the bags on the kitchen counter, my mind racing ahead of my body, painting reckless pictures that I tried and failed to erase. He moved with a casual confidence, unpacking items like he belonged there, like this was not the first time he had crossed my threshold. I tried to busy myself, wiping down the already clean counter, fussing with my hair, anything to regain some measure of composure. Yet every time I glanced at him, I felt that same unsettling jolt, as if the universe had tilted and left us stranded together in a different reality. He finished unpacking and turned to face me, wiping his hands on his jeans. "You okay?" he asked, a small smile tugging at the corner of his mouth, but his eyes stayed serious, watching, waiting. "Yeah," I lied, my voice thinner than I wanted. "Just a long day." He nodded, stepping closer. Not enough to touch, but enough that I could feel the heat radiating off his body. It was absurd how the air itself seemed to bend around him, drawing me in. I could smell his cologne, something woodsy and warm, mixing with the faint scent of laundry soap and sun. It was disarming, intoxicating. "You do too much," he said quietly. "Always running around, always taking care of everyone else." I blinked at him, startled by the unexpected tenderness in his words. No one had said that to me in a long, long time. No one had noticed or cared. Before I could think of a reply, he reached out slowly, giving me every chance to pull away, and brushed a stray lock of hair from my face. His fingers were warm and calloused, sending a shiver down my spine. It was the gentlest of touches, but it carried the weight of everything he was not saying out loud. The logical part of me screamed to step back, to laugh it off, to pretend nothing was happening. But another part, deeper, older, hungrier, rooted me to the spot, aching for something I had long convinced myself I no longer needed. "I see you," he said, almost a whisper. And in that moment, under the soft kitchen light and the quiet hum of the fridge, I believed him. Time seemed to stretch and fold in on itself, blurring the lines between right and wrong, between past hurts and future possibilities. I saw the question in his eyes again, clearer now, and I knew my answer would change everything. I did not know who moved first. Maybe it was both of us at once, but suddenly there was no more distance left between us. His hand cupped my face with an aching, reverence thumb, grazing the corner of my mouth as if committing every detail to memory. I let my eyes close, surrendering to the moment, to the silent, desperate yearning that had been growing between us since the first accidental touch. When his lips finally met mine, it was not hurried or reckless. It was slow, deliberate, almost cautious, like he was asking a question he was afraid to voice. My heart cracked wide open under the weight of it. I kissed him back with the same tenderness, trying to pour years of loneliness, longing, and unspoken dreams into a single trembling moment. The world outside ceased to exist. The steady tick of the kitchen clock, the hum of the fridge, the worries that usually clung to me like a second skin, all of it faded into nothing. There was only the heat of his body, the softness of his mouth against mine, the way his arms wrapped around me like he was afraid I might disappear if he let go. I felt the sharp edge of the counterpress into my lower back as he lifted me effortlessly onto it, never breaking the kiss. His hands framed my waist, holding me like something fragile and precious. I threaded my fingers through his hair, tugging him closer, needing more, needing everything he was offering and everything he was holding back. When we finally pulled apart, breathless and dazed, he rested his forehead against mine. His fingers traced idle patterns on my thighs, each touch sending ripples of warmth through me. He looked at me like he was seeing all the broken hidden pieces inside and loving me. "Anyway, I have wanted to do that since the day I met you," he confessed, voice rough with emotion. I laughed softly, feeling the sting of happy tears threaten to spill. "You barely knew me then," I whispered. "I knew enough," he said, pulling back just enough to look into my eyes. "Enough to know you deserved more than polite hells across the driveway. Enough to know you deserved someone who actually saw you. No one had ever said that to me before. Not my ex-husband, not the string of men who had passed through my life leaving nothing but hollow promises and empty smiles." I pressed my forehead to his again, grounding myself in his warmth, in the steady thrum of his heart against mine. He helped me down from the counter with a gentleness that made my chest ache, and together we stumbled toward the living room, hands never letting go of each other. We collapsed onto the couch, tangled together, laughter and kisses spilling between us like a language all our own. There was no urgency, no frantic rush, only slow exploration, tentative touches, whispered questions answered by the sighs and gasps that filled the space between us. He worshipped every inch of me with his hands, his mouth, his eyes, as if I were something sacred, something he had waited a lifetime to find. For the first time in years, I did not feel like I had to hide my flaws, my scars, my softer places. With him, vulnerability did not feel like a risk, it felt like a gift. Every brush of his fingers against my skin whispered promises of acceptance, of understanding, of passion, without judgment. As the night deepened, so did our connection. Clothes fell away like unnecessary armor, exposing not just our bodies, but the truths we had both been too afraid to speak. In the dim, golden light of the living room, I let him see all of me, not just the carefully constructed exterior, but the messy, yearning, beautiful chaos beneath. When he finally moved inside me, it was not just physical, it was emotional, spiritual. A melding of two people who had been circling loneliness for far too long. I clung to him, nails digging into his back, grounding myself in the reality of this impossible, breathtaking moment. He moved with a patience and reverence that undid me completely. Every thrust, every kiss, every whispered word against my ear felt like a declaration. You are wanted, you are seen, you are enough. Tears slipped from the corners of my eyes, and he kissed them away without hesitation, holding me tighter, loving me harder. We moved together in a rhythm older than either of us, losing ourselves and finding something new, something ours, in the spaces between gasps and moans and whispered names. When we finally collapsed against each other, sweaty and trembling and utterly spent, he cradled me to his chest like I was something precious. I could hear his heart pounding wild and strong beneath my ear. For a long time we stayed like that, tangled together in the aftermath, breathing each other in, hearts beating a shaky, beautiful rhythm of belonging. "You okay?" he asked after a while, voice and tender. I smiled against his skin, feeling a piece I had not known I was missing until now. "I am better than okay." I murmured, "I am home." He kissed the top of my head and pulled me even closer, as if trying to merge our bodies into one. I let myself be held. Let myself believe in the impossible magic of this night. Let myself hope for the first time in what felt like forever. The clock on the wall ticked on. But for once I did not feel like I was racing against time. For once I was exactly where I was meant to be, in the arms of someone who had chosen me, not out of obligation or convenience, but because he had seen something in me worth loving. And for the first time in a long time, I believed it too. The morning light crept through the thin curtains, casting a soft glow across the living room, where we still lay wrapped around each other. For a few blissful seconds, I let myself exist in that warmth, that stillness where nothing ugly or complicated could reach us. But reality, stubborn and relentless, soon began to seep in around the edges. I shifted slightly, my body aching in places I had forgotten could ache. But my heart was suddenly trembling with 1,000 new fears. What had we done? What did it mean? Would he wake up and regret it? Would I? He stirred beside me, his arm tightening instinctively around my waist, his face buried in my hair. That simple, unconscious gesture should have reassured me. But instead, it made the panic claw higher in my chest. I slipped out of his embrace, gently, careful not to wake him, and tiptoed into the kitchen. I needed space, air, something to steady the storm gathering inside me. As I fumbled with the coffee maker, my hands shaking slightly, I replayed everything in my mind, the way he had looked at me, touched me, whispered my name like a prayer. None of it had felt wrong, none of it had felt forced or mistaken, and yet the weight of years of caution, of heartbreak, of self-doubt pressed down on me until I could barely breathe. Who was I to him? Really a woman too old to be swept off her feet, a stand-in for something he had lost or longed for. Would I become just another mistake in his rearview mirror, something he would one day cringe at when he remembered? I leaned against the counter, pressing my palms flat against the cold surface, trying to anchor myself. Behind me, I heard the soft shuffle of his footsteps. I squeezed my eyes shut, bracing myself for awkwardness, for regret, for the careful, polite distance that often followed nights like the one we had shared. But when his arms slid around my waist from behind, when his chin rested on my shoulder and he murmured, "Good morning, beautiful," into my ear, something fragile and stubborn inside me cracked. I turned in his arms, searching his face for any hint of doubt or shame. All I found was tenderness and something deeper, something that terrified me even more than the possibility of rejection, hope. "You okay?" he asked, studying me with those earnest, searching eyes that seemed determined to uncover every hidden truth I carried. I wanted to lie, to smile and say everything was fine, to pretend that I was not already building walls to protect myself from a pain that had not even come yet. But I had promised myself sometime in the blur of last night that if I was brave enough to want more, I had to be brave enough to be honest, too. "I am scared," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "I do not know how to do this without ruining it." His brow furrowed and he cupped my face in his hands, forcing me to meet his gaze. "We do not have to figure it all out right now," he said softly. "We just have to be honest with each other, with ourselves." Tears burned behind my eyes, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming kindness of it. I nodded, unable to speak, and he kissed me gently, not to seduce or distract, but to anchor me back to him, to remind me we were in this together. We moved through the morning, slowly, carefully, like two people learning a new dance. He brewed the coffee while I toasted bread. He leaned against the counter, watching me with a fond smile that made my stomach flip. We did not talk about last night, Not directly, but every touch, every glance was saturated with unspoken promises. Later, sitting together at the small kitchen table, he reached across the table and took my hand. His thumb stroked over my knuckles, a simple, steady rhythm that calmed the wild thundering of my heart. "I am not going anywhere," he said quietly, "unless you ask me to." The weight of his words settled over me, heavier than any doubt I could have manufactured. He was not offering me fairy tales or forever. He was offering me choice agency, the terrifying and exhilarating chance to want something without being afraid of losing it. I squeezed his hand in return, a silent acknowledgement that I was still scared, still unsure, but that I was willing to try, and somehow that felt like the bravest thing I had ever done. Days turned into weeks, and slowly I began to believe that maybe, just maybe, this was something real. There were still moments when fear tried to creep back in, whispering doubts and old scars into my ear, but every time he was there with steady hands and steady eyes grounding me. We built something quietly, something soft but strong, piece by piece, not rushed, not forced. Just two broken souls learning how to fit together without losing the best parts of themselves. He made me laugh again. The real kind of laughter that bubbled up from somewhere deep inside, uncontrollable and pure. He made me feel seen. Not just the woman I used to be, but the woman I was becoming. And somewhere along the way, I stopped bracing for the goodbye that never came. I stopped holding my breath, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Instead, I learned to exhale, to exist in the simple, beautiful truth that sometimes the universe gives you exactly what you need when you least expect it. Not in the form of a grand gesture or a perfect fairy tale ending, but in the quiet choice to stay, to try to believe. As he reached across the table one morning, threading his fingers through mine and smiling that crooked smile that had undone me from the very beginning, I realized something simple and profound. This was not about finding someone to complete me. It was about choosing someone who made me feel whole just as I was. Looking back, I still wonder, was I reading too much into it? Or not enough? His words said all the right things, but his hands told a story that made my heart race for all the wrong reasons. It's strange how we're taught to trust actions over words, but what do we do when those actions cross a line we never gave permission to? Some people will say, "I should have spoken up." Others might say, "I overreacted." But the truth is, moments like these live in the gray areas where instinct whispers something isn't right, but doubt keeps you quiet. So I ask you, what would you have done? Should I have pushed back? Should I have asked questions or simply walked away in silence? Was he being kind, or was he testing how far he could go? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your perspective, even if it challenges mine. Follow me so I have more motivation to create powerful, honest stories like this, or simply encourage me by pressing number 1. Your support helps more than you know.